how do you know the difference between your gut telling you to walk away and your fear telling you to quit?
Yeah.
And sometimes quitting feels like avoidance. Sometimes quitting is wisdom, though. Welcome to the AAA Mindset, the podcast where adversity isn't a setback. It's the setup. If life has challenged you and stepped on your confidence and forced you to pivot, you're in the right place. Here, we train the mind to face obstacles head on and turn them into fuel for growth, resilience, and success. Hey, welcome back to the AAA Mindset. We hope you've been enjoying our series on mindset and discipline and mental toughness and all of the things that have to do to get your life in a better position so far. Today, we are going to be talking about trusting your intuition and sharing some stories about our own personal trials and tribulations of when we want to quit. So let's kick this party off right now.
Let's do it.
We're going to talk about trusting your intuition, but I want to talk about, first of all, that gut feeling. So how do you know the difference between your gut telling you to walk away and your fear telling you to quit?
Ooh. I think if you're following your gut and you really want to walk away because genuinely you know that that's what you're supposed to be doing, like wholeheartedly you know that, then that's one thing. But if you're walking away from something because you're fearful, you're tired, you're exhausted, you've got PTSD kicking in, then that's walking away for the wrong reasons. Like there's been plenty of situations in my life where I've walked away from something because I wholeheartedly knew I was supposed to do that. There was no regret, there was no fear, it was 100% confidence. Whereas there's been other times I've wanted to do things like that, but it was because of emotions versus like full clarity.
I will say for me, trusting my intuition, the biggest thing I can think of is when I walked into my condo and I found a pregnancy test on the countertop and I didn't even know I could do that. And so immediately my first thought,
Just kidding.
no, I definitely got you. My first thought, I was at the top of my bodybuilding career. I was 1 point from the Olympia. And the thought of having a child really never crossed my mind, to be honest with you, because I thought I had been bodybuilding for a long time and we were probably going to have to need a little help if we wanted to do that. Well, come to find out, we did not need any help. And I walked into my condo. There was a pregnancy test on the counter and my whole life completely changed that moment. And I didn't even think about it. Literally, I told her, I'm done bodybuilding.
Yeah, you said that literally, after we celebrated being pregnant first, the next thing you said to me was, I'm done bodybuilding, which was actually a big deal because your whole identity was surrounded by that. And you were really successful and on your way to the Super Bowl of bodybuilding, the Olympia. And so for you to say, I'm done. So why did you instantly think that? Like what?
I don't know. That's where I think it was intuition.
I think it was honestly as a sister, like looking back.
God.
I was going to say, I think it was God because you were in a place where like for you guys in this sport, right? Like you were like, oh my gosh, 1 point away, go, go, go. As a sister in like behind the scenes, I was terrified because I knew for you to go to the next level, it was going to wreak havoc on your body. So that's where for me, I was thrilled. I feel like God made that happen because you were supposed to go a different direction.
Right. That's actually what like really drove that decision is that year there was 19 guys that passed away in bodybuilding and I found a pregnancy test and that like I was just like instantly like I am not going to be that dude that passes away because I was taking too much tren to try to make it to the Olympia. Like I'm not going to have my kids not have a dad because he was too obsessed with bodybuilding.
In that moment, I could see that your intuition came in, it stepped in, your gut was saying like, I need to quit. But did you later on, like after a few days, the dust has settled, or even months into this decision, did you ever feel fearful and regret that decision for just even a half a second?
Not once.
Interesting. That is good.
How do you know?
Because you guys know how I was when I competed. I was obsessed. That's all I thought about, cared about. And I've never had that same feeling. Like even when I go to your shows and like I'd see guys on stage that I competed with, like the competitor in me was like, maybe I still got it. Maybe I could still do it. But I never really had that that huge urge to get back up there because I didn't want to have to do what I have to do to be competitive on a pro bodybuilding stage because I know that potentially could put me at risk. So to be honest with you, I've never had that like, I really want to compete again since that day.
Yeah. And not that is the wrong decision for all bodybuilders who end up being dads. Like
100%.
we know quite a few.
Totally. And I'm not hating on that at all. That was just my own personal decision. I don't know what came over me to have that huge change in my life that moment, but it did.
Well, I think that's fair too. I think, like I said, for me, I was thrilled when you got pregnant, because number one, I was excited to be an aunt, but truly, I didn't think Adam would ever be a dad. And that really made me sad because I thought, right now he loves the sport so much that he's in, but there will be a time that he doesn't do this again. And now you're going to be older without kids. And I always knew the dad you were supposed to be. So in that moment, I remember vividly when you called me, I was on a phone call and he texts me and he's like, you have to answer now. And literally, it's weird because I thought something happened to him. Like I thought he's in the hospital. I thought something happened to him. And then he told me that you were pregnant. And I was like, I had chills all over my body. Like it was like an outer body experience because even that intuition as a sister for you, I knew that was the right direction for you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I honestly think, in a way, like Sophia saved my life because I was just the type of bodybuilder I would have done whatever it takes. Like that's just how I was. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but that's just how I was.
And that doesn't mean that not anyone in the industry, it doesn't mean that's everybody in the industry, right? That just means...
No, but I think if you want to make it to the top, one of the things that you have to have is the ability to do what you got to do. Yeah. And by what I mean by that is sometimes you got to
do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do. And if you're a bodybuilder, you probably know what I'm talking about.
I like this because, having the intuition to quit was the right decision, even though sometimes people view quitting as like failure or like they quit because of fear of facing other things. Like this moment defined you and helped you become closer to the best version of you that is here now today.
And I've honestly been wanting to talk about this. So we're just going to turn this podcast into this. Let's go.
I love it.
Exactly. Yeah. It was a difficult decision for me because that was my identity. And as a pro bodybuilder, I think a lot of guys can probably experience this. Like, I was getting all the hype. I was on all the, social media pages. People were talking about me on podcasts. I was getting all this publicity, which kind of gives you a high, and then once you stop competing, no one gives a shit about you anymore. And that's just how the bodybuilding world works. Like once you are gone and you are no longer relevant. And the only people that can stay relevant, if you're Mr. Olympia or something, but typically once you're done, you're done. And you feel that because, the hype of Adam as the bodybuilder, like was no longer there. And that was, that gave me drive, and that was no longer there for me. And you just kind of have to accept that like your spotlight kind of is dimming. And it's not as easy as you think it is when you've been in the spotlight.
Absolutely.
So that quitting might have been painful because you were going to have to really like check your ego.
But I wouldn't say I quit because it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm not getting the placings I want. I'm going to quit. I quit. I call it retired.
You retired, yeah.
Because I have a bigger purpose. So for me, I don't consider me quitting bodybuilding. I stepped away from bodybuilding for my family.
Right. Absolutely.
I retired from bodybuilding.
And I would say, like, as your sister looking in, I think you're more successful now than you were. I mean, way more.
I make way more money now. Because before I had to wake up, do fasted cardio. I had to do all the things bodybuilding that's required to be, a top pro bodybuilder. And it's a lot. And now I can focus on my business and, all those hours that I was spending on myself. Now I can take on clients and it's absolutely benefited me.
I just think that you are now successful in a different way.
Right.
That was success in bodybuilding. This is success in more of like a life that you've wanted to create. And that's what I was saying. These moments have become a better version, showing you to become a better version of yourself that you didn't necessarily know that you had in the cards of yourself. And speaking of, I felt that way when I met you and like decided that like you were the one, because I know this sounds really
guys, this is so cute.
Yeah. Tell me more.
Well, because we're talking about intuition, right? And I had, as you know, in my previous episodes, I had discussed about a failed marriage previous to Adam. And I thought that I was a failure and that I did not deserve good relationships from there. I screwed up that marriage. I ended up getting into a relationship after that was terrible. And after that ended and I separated from that, I was like, dating and swiping. And it was like, this is not in the cards for me. Like I am not going to be like, every person I had met was just like, not a great person. And I was like, I just don't know, but they were hot or they were like, they were popular or whatever, like all those things that those superficial reasons reasons to find somebody, but it was like, this still isn't it. And when Adam and I actually started getting together in 2020 and like doing our workouts in Dorian's garage and everything, I literally remember saying to my best friend Aaron, I was like, something about this guy is like really special. Like, he is not like the most flashiest person. He is not, you know, like, you're a very humble person. Like, you know, you're like 100%. And so like my intuition kicked in and I was like, something tells me not to just call it because there's no flashiness in front of me because of this relationship.
I didn't have any flash.
Yeah. That's not what I'm saying.
Wow.
What I'm saying,
I thought I was bringing the flash.
You were bringing the flash.
You did. But you had this like
different.
gentle, calming, you know, sense over me where I was just like, this is more meaningful than any other person I've swiped right for.
Unless I was severely carb depleted and then I wasn't very calm.
No, he was not very calm.
Yeah.
Well,
but
I
that intuition kicked in and I was like, I need to give this a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And I remember I even came to you and I was like we kind of had like this fling going where it wasn't serious. And then my intuition kicked in again and I had said something. What did I say to you?
And I hurt your feelings.
Yeah, you hurt my feelings.
Because she kept on like, she was like basically like, you know, like we're just like, you know, workout buddies that like, you know, whatever.
Like each other.
More than that. And then one day you said something, I can't remember what you said, but I was like, well, like we're just like, you know, hanging out, you know, hooking up anyway. So like it's not a big deal because we're not anything more than that.
Yes.
And then
I left. Hold on. I left after that.
And
I was driving to the Sports Institute to go train clients. And I was driving and I was like, that made me feel really terrible. Like normally, like, you know, it's like, whatever. Like, I was like, no, I don't like that. So I actually called you and I was like, I don't really like, that made me feel terrible. And what did you say to me?
And I was like, well, I really like you and I want you to be my girlfriend, but like, I thought you wanted to take things slow. So I didn't want to like be like a weirdo.
That's
and, like,
so cute.
You know, and then I'm pretty sure from that moment you were my girlfriend, right? Isn't that right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
So it was like we were like in 7th grade. And I was like, I really want you to be my girlfriend.
I know. And I was like, well, I don't know about that, but okay.
Okay, fine. Well, I think it is so true.
But that's an intuition.
Intuition. I mean, but that's a perfect example because we have my story with Eric is very, very similar where I just knew the minute he hugged me, I was like, oh, he was in a wedding and I was like, I'm going to marry that guy right there.
You
and
said
I
that
just,
to your friend.
Oh, I knew. I called mom.
You said that to your friend?
I called my mom that night and said, I'm going to marry a McMaster, not the other one, but Eric McMaster. And yeah, I broke up with my boyfriend of 4 years that night.
Okay, wait, we have to back up and tell people who are listening. Like, I know this is a lot. Like, talk about like the first McMaster.
Okay, the first McMaster.
Tell the story.
Okay, so first McMaster is my brother-in-law, and we were like best friends throughout high school. My boyfriend of like all throughout high school and college, they were best friends, so we all hung out together all the time. And so I went to a wedding with Eric's brother, first McMaster,
as his date.
Okay, let's clarify date. Let's clarify date. I went as a friend. As in my opinion.
I'm sure on his end that was not his intention, but
I mean, I was still kind of seeing his best friend, so that'd have been weird too. Anyway,
kind of best friend brother, like
weird.
Abby.
Yeah. But no, I walked into the wedding, which is weird because I don't even know why I went to the wedding. Like I remember being like, I'll go with you, and I'm like, why am I going to this?
Yeah.
And I walked in, Eric was right there, and he hugged me, and I thought I was gonna vomit because I was like, oh my gosh. And yeah, he was standing up there, and I was like, I'm gonna walk down the aisle to him. And then I got home that night and called my mom and said I'm gonna marry him. And then I dumped my boyfriend the next day, and we were done. And I mean, we were kind of on and off anyways. And then
next day, really.
Yeah, that's another story we don't need to get into. And then Eric called me 3 days later, and
did you know he was going to call you?
No,
did he get your number?
He got my number from his brother, and
but he didn't get your number like at the wedding.
He did not at the wedding.
So
I remember thinking like, okay, I got to figure out where he goes downtown. Like I have to see him again.
So you weren't expecting him to hit you up?
No, I mean, I don't know. I kind of like for some reason thought he would. And then I was going to a dance camp because I taught dance camps, and my phone rang walking on the airplane. I never answer numbers I don't know, and I answered it, and it was him. And then everyone tried to tell me, oh my gosh, you know, he's a player, all the things.
You know.
And
Eric McMaster, a player.
Eric.
Okay.
How dare you, Eric?
And isn't it funny because now he's like the most like
for sure
like wholesome.
Well, that's
like,
how it works. I was the same way.
Yeah.
Really because he met his match. He met the person that fills his cup, and that's the thing.
For sure.
Like,
and same
when I met
he wanted
you,
to be a good person.
I knew that I was like, there's just nobody else. Like this is the one.
Right. I felt the same way.
But in fairness, like there could have been so many reasons that I did not date him. Like, okay, his brother was my best friend. Was that weird? I had just gotten a different relationship. People were telling me like, oh, it'll never work out, all the things. But the intuition, like I knew deep inside, like the fear could have made me go, oh, never mind, let's break up. This isn't going to work. But like my intuition was like, I have to go with this. Like I have to do this. And so I think there is a big difference when it comes to like fear versus intuition. You have to really understand which is which.
Right. Because I think if you have fear, your first reaction is to not go.
Yes.
Whereas you have intuition that's different, it could be telling you to go.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is because sometimes you try to make a decision that logically makes sense at the time, but your gut knows.
Yes.
100%.
100%.
That's the thing. It's like, well, logically, like I knew I was doing great in bodybuilding. Like the logical thing is like, I'm on my way to getting to where I want to go. Why would I step away? And you didn't, because your gut told you as soon as you saw that pregnancy test, no.
Yeah.
Which is pretty powerful. Like that's the power of intuition.
Yes.
Which is crazy. Like it can really change and pivot your life, right?
In 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes quitting feels like avoidance. Sometimes quitting is wisdom though. Sometimes it's like the best decision you've ever made. And again, maybe it's not quitting, but maybe it's pivoting, right?
Absolutely.
It's just learning how to pivot better and learning to trust your gut along the way.
Well, like you think about, quitting versus pivoting. And, I think people who want to judge you or whatever will naturally think when you do make a pivot that is right for you that, oh, they're just quitting. I think about myself, my former company I was with, I knew like my time there was done. Like I had my time there, but it was done. I couldn't do it anymore. So I left there because I knew I was supposed to go to my new company, but people thought I quit. They thought, that was so stupid. I was a quitter, all that kind of stuff. In my heart of hearts, I knew I was making the right decision. And it was, a leap of faith, truly. But there's a difference of quitting on something because you're going a different direction.
Right.
Like I see people every single day quit because of fear or quit because they're exhausted or quit because, they don't feel like it's working for them. That's different than going, I'm just supposed to be in a different place.
You're no longer aligned
exactly.
with this version of yourself.
I think there's a difference too. Like I was talking to one of my clients Wednesday, and he was talking about how he wanted to shift back into more of a lifestyle rather than competing, trying to compete in a bodybuilding show. And I told him, I said, that's fine if that's what you want to do, but I don't want you to look at this because bodybuilding is hard. That's why you're quitting, because you're understanding how much you have to put into this, and that's difficult. And that's what's truly driving your fear to quit.
Yes.
Rather than, a big life change and you're pivoting because it's the right choice. A lot of people I see, especially with the bodybuilding industry, is it's very difficult. So that makes people quit because they think, oh, this looks cool. I want to have jack rib muscles too. They have no idea what that actually entails.
Well, and the fact that you're going to lose more than you win.
Totally.
Like a lot more.
That's the thing is though, quitting, doing something that is hard, anything that's hard requires you to go out of your comfort zone. So quitting actually can be like the easy way out, but sometimes
100%.
It's just you're no longer aligned with that. And it's not necessarily quitting, you're just pivoting to the next step. And that can sometimes even be harder than actually staying in it and going against the grain, because now you're faced with scrutiny, you're faced with, people judging you, that scrutiny, you're faced with having to rearrange and reorganize some of your systems in your lifestyle. All of those things you're having to maybe explain to other people. Maybe you have to completely take on some new education to learn new things. Maybe you're not good at it initially. We're talking about how sometimes pivoting is the harder decision than actually quitting itself. Quitting, it can be hard, but pivoting to something else can actually pose its own challenges.
I was thinking about this the other day. I was actually going to do like a reel on it, but I think it's going to be controversial and I don't care. I'm going to do it. But talking about like the difference of pivoting versus quitting when your kids are watching you
as a parent,
because, especially in the industry that I'm in, I have more people quit than
sure.
Far more people quit than actually have success because it looks glamorous in the beginning. And so, when you have your kids watching you,
I fell for it.
Whatever. She's doing great. You haven't quit.
I haven't quit though. That's the difference. I'm not quitting.
Yeah, we got a story happening. Anyway, but I think back to like my kids and they've seen me in positions where I've had to pivot, right? They've seen me have to redo things and pivot, but they've never seen me quit on it. And there is a big difference because as parents, when we are, being role models to our kids, if they see us constantly giving up on things because they get hard, that immediately teaches them that later in life,
100%.
That's what they should do too. Rather than if you're pivoting because that's the right direction for you, they see you hustling, they see you working hard, they see you putting the long hours, but you're not quitting. You're just pivoting for a new direction. And so, I always think I would say one of the reasons I never gave up on myself was I was not going to let Taylor and Maddie see me quit ever. And I do remember one time after, our first company happened and I was so devastated and Taylor was so young. And I remember he said to me like, but mom, you're not a quitter. Like you're not a quitter. And I look at my kids now and like, their athletics and those things, they've never once thought of quitting. When it's hard, they figure out how to pivot to get on the right path again. And that's a big thing. And so I think when you decide that you want to go and do something, like look at your kids in the eyes and promise that you're not going to quit on them because they're watching you and you're setting the example for their future.
Well, I think a lot of parents, when parents see things, when parents experience hard things, they often quit. And like you just said, like your kids see that, and every time you quit, they think it's okay. And they think that's a solution to the problem rather than fighting through the hard and getting better and ultimately getting where you want to go.
Yeah. I mean, if you're trying to earn additional income in your family, let's just go ahead and put it out there. It's not going to be easy. And if somebody tells you it's going to be easy, run far from that person.
Is there any easy way to make money?
No, but people try to convince you all the time.
100%.
I mean, the people online,
there's no overnight success to anything.
The people online who try to convince people that it's just going to be this easy thing, sign up for this and it's going to make you all this money. Y'all stop being fools.
For sure.
Like stop being fools.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, it's the same with our industry. It's, take this, you'll have, this amazing body. And it's like never going to happen. I don't care what it is. Not going to happen.
You have to put in the work.
You do.
You have to.
That's across the board in everything that you do in life.
I'm trying to think as a mom and the example I'm setting for Bo and Sophia of like, I don't really ever feel like, even if it's just like getting to a dance recital or getting to, trying to get all these things done in the day, and showing my kids that like, yeah, we're going to do it all. I don't ever have that issue of like, well, this is just too hard for me. I just can't take on this much. Like for me, I'm like the over ambitious where I'm like, I'm going to do it all. And I'm going to,
I think all three of us
to the
like
end of it.
Yes.
And so I don't think my kids get a lot of that exposure to like seeing somebody quit. And so I think when they do, because they're going to see sometimes where I'm at my weakest, I'm sure, and they're still young, that, it's going to be an interesting lesson to show them how I pivot and how we persevere. It's like, okay, well, even though we didn't get this done today, we're still going to do this and still try to accomplish that. And so those little mini lessons are going to come along the way for sure.
Well, and it's good for them to see that. It's good actually to have them see you have moments of breakdown because that is life.
Right.
My kids have seen me cry. They've seen, me be literally on the floor putting carpet stains on my carpet because I'm crying so hard from my mascara. That's good for them to see because guess what they saw the next day? Their mom hustling again, so that's just called life. I think even like when it comes to, and you might totally disagree with me, but like even parents having arguments in front of each other, being examples for your kids. I've had so many people who are like, oh, I'll never argue in front of my kids. We'll do that separately. And I'm like, it's called life. They need to see,
100%.
they need to see you argue and come back together and love each other and apologize. Those are life lessons.
Well, it just demonstrates a healthy relationship because healthy relationships aren't people who don't face issues and face, failures. They come together and they, make a resolution and they stick together no matter what, Yep. So I think that's totally true.
So what are times would you say that, rather than trusting your intuition, making a pivot, what are times that you've actually genuinely wanted to quit? Because I know we've all had that.
I mean, when I blew my knees out, when you can't walk and, your whole life completely changes in a blink of an eye. I'm not going to say I ever wanted to quit, but there was definitely days, and I probably still have those thoughts of, will I ever feel normal again? And quitting was never an option because I had 2 kids and a wife to get better for. But there was days where you were just like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be the same human.
I think that's the truth to it, where you're like, there's days, like, 'cause there are days where I like want to quit my job as a coach. There are days where I am like, maybe something with a client went wrong, or they're not understanding something, or I'm not conveying something well, or I feel like I let myself down or whatever. Like, so there's those little moments where it's like, it would be so much easier if I just didn't have this job. And I think that
she does often say, honey, can I just quit?
Well, here's the thing.
We all have moments.
Like, what I was going to bring up is that you get a little bit of that grass is greener syndrome where you're like, I just hate Colorado. I'm going to move to Tuscaloosa and everything, and my life's going to be so much better, which it probably will because Tuscaloosa, let's
roll Tide.
No, but like you get that grass is greener syndrome. We're like, I'm just going to quit. I'm going to go work a corporate job and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I could relate this to like when my dad sold his restaurant. He worked for a corporation and then he bought his restaurant back because he was like, realized like this, even though it's hard to own your own business, this was the much better decision. Like, you know, things like that. And so I don't have these groundbreaking stories to tell you that like when I wanted to quit, because like I told you, I'm really ambitious. I will not quit until somebody like actually forces me to quit. Like I couldn't get into PA school. I had to quit. Okay. I tried for 5 years. That's when I had to quit. But I also knew that that was the better direction for me eventually. Right. And I'm glad that I made those decisions. And I'm glad I was forced to make those decisions as well. But I feel like you get these little moments of like, oh man, this is hard. I want to quit. Like, you know, it would be so much easier if I didn't have to do this. It's like, yeah, no, like,
yeah, that's not true though, because it wouldn't be easier because you'd be broke.
Right.
well, yeah, but like, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like the harder decision is to, you know, continue to keep going and persevering. The easy decision is to quit, you know?
Yeah.
But in a way, it's not easier because your life is going to be so much harder by quitting.
It's
So
easier in the moment.
You obviously, like, it's emotional.
Exactly,
You feel
in the
like
moment,
you
in the
want to
moment.
quit because it's like, oh, I'm just so sick of all the things. But ultimately, you're just making your life harder.
Well, and that's why I think that intuition is a lot about self-trust and it's a lot about not going just in the heat of the moment with emotion. Like intuition is more than that. It's like a gut instinct that tells you something that maybe is just a burning desire in you that doesn't necessarily just go away regardless of how you're feeling that day.
Yeah.
But I feel like intuition is like a calculated decision. Like I feel like you need like to really be like intuitive. Like you need to like it's not just like a random act. Like you need to really be in tune with that decision and like really know that that's what's best for you.
Definitely.
But
Well,
do you get better at that with experience?
I think so. And I think there's two different sides of being intuitive. Number one, intuitive in like your own life, but the second piece is intuitive with other people.
Right.
You know, and there's been a lot of times like my intuition with people, and I would say I'm very intuitive when I'm talking to people. I can call people's bull.
Oh, totally.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Clean it up.
But I can like
Lord
I can.
Jesus.
Sorry. But I can call out people's bull like very quickly. I'm like that's not true. That doesn't make sense, and that is a great problem for me. But it's also a negative too because it can cause me to be very like doubtful and skeptical with a lot of things because I'm like I know that's not true. Like online, constantly, I'm like not true, not true. You're lying, and people are lying all day long online. It makes me absolutely insane.
Totally.
But you know, there's been situations in life where people have been in my life where I knew that they were not a good person and I knew I should not surround myself with that person. And, you know, you have to be intuitive and it's okay to walk away. It's okay to be like, you're not who I'm supposed to surround myself with. And that can be in business. I mean, there's people who've wanted to do business with me and I'm like, you're
100%.
not a good person. So I've actually gotten to the point with me, like there are people I will just ignore when they reach out to me online because I'm like, I don't want to work with you.
Yeah, if you're not like a quality human who I see, you know, going down the right path, like will never do business with you.
I have zero interest.
Ever. And I've done that. Like I've done business with some people that I knew deep down it probably wasn't the best idea, but I went through it with it anyway. And every single time it bit me in the ass.
Yep.
Every time.
And
Yeah,
and
I know
that's
exactly what you're talking about.
And that's the hardest thing about working in businesses with people. Like you're reliant on your incomes for people coming to train with you, people coming to, you know, obviously get nutrition, you know, help and coaching and all of those different things. And same thing with me in my industry, my business is reliant on helping people. And that's one of the most difficult things is putting your whole heart and soul in helping somebody and helping them accomplish their goals and like doing so much for them. And then they quit on themselves.
For sure.
And that's one thing that I've had to be diligent with and teach a lot of my leaders is you can't quit because somebody else quit.
Right.
Like if that's the case, then you are actually a follower.
Well,
you are not a leader.
But you were ultimately going to quit either way.
You were going to quit
anyways.
anyways.
If you were influenced by someone, but you were on your way out anyway.
Right. I mean, prime example, there's, you know, a person we were working with and in my heart of hearts, I knew and like my intuition was like, something's off with this person, but kept working with them. And all of a sudden in the last month, they've gone like silent and now they're posting something else. And it's like, well, I knew that intuition, but my other affiliate's emotional about it. And I'm like, I'm not emotional. I knew this was going to happen.
That's where I feel like the trusting your gut takes experience.
Yes.
Like, okay, in the past, I'll give you an example. This happened the other day. In the past, you know, somebody contacts me to do coaching. I go through when I do a consult with them, I'm actually interviewing them as well. Mm-hmm. Right. And in the past, I used to be that coach of like, I can save everyone, I can help everyone, and I'm going to be the coach for you, and I'm going to be the most versatile coach, and blah, 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 no matter what, regardless of those red flags that are popping off. But now, because I have more experience with that, and because I'm better at trusting my gut and my intuition, I don't take on every client. And that just happened to me the other day. I interviewed a client, didn't turn out great. Like, they were giving me a bunch of red flags about, kind of going against the grain of being coachable, essentially. And I had to turn them down.
Mhm.
And, it's hard to turn away business. It's hard, especially when you're running your own business. It's hard to turn away your own ego of like, oh, I know I could change them. I think that takes experience of trusting your intuition. That's what I'm saying.
But you're also setting yourself up for a very exhausting client who ultimately will drive you crazy and affect your well-being, your sleep, all the things, because that one client who probably wanted a discount is going to be your biggest pain in the ass.
Well, and then they take away your time that you could be investing in finding other clients that are actually going to be coachable and going to be exciting to work with.
Those people,
and that's where I'm at too. With my own business, I work with the people who put me to work. I am not chasing you. If you are not coachable, 100%. You don't want to do that. You want to complain all the time. Like, you're on your own.
For sure.
I mean, if you want to make some changes,
there's
I'll work with you.
There's a peace of mind on our side too. It's like I can't be dealing with your constant because it's literally affecting me.
Yes. If you're complaining more than you're actually in action, then there's a problem.
Right. And I'll tell you,
that probably is across the board in everything they do.
Everything.
I guarantee it.
Victim mentality.
And this comes to my next point too, is like, so for this example that I just used, where it was like this client that I did a consult with, this potential client, and then decided to not go with, she was referred to me by somebody I used to coach who I absolutely adore. And so because that person, referred her, it kind of put this like expectation, like, I'm going to please you and make sure that this person that you're sending me is taken care of, and like, throw out the red carpet and all that stuff. But the truth of the matter is I had to just stick up for myself and say no. In my deepest intuition, in my gut, I knew that this was going to be a train wreck. I knew that this was going to be a bad idea to take on this client. And so that's the intuition. And that's what I'm saying is you might have this like outside noise or this ability to try to like please what other people are wanting for you, but it's not the right decision. And that can sometimes damper your gut feeling, damper your intuition of saying, well, I really think I should do this, but no, I have these outside people telling me, influencing me that I should be this other way. So,
well, you had an outside influencer telling you to run from this person that we're speaking.
Well,
I also had that too. Yeah. But
that's
I asked around. Yeah.
That's good to know also. I feel like that's usually pretty valid. If they're,
if a person that has no reason to tell you that tells you that, you should probably listen to them.
You should probably listen.
100%. Yeah. So I think it's important to talk about though, how in our past, we've maybe let other people's opinion override what we knew what was right for us. When do you think that that's happened to you?
Oof. Put me on the spot with that one.
I know. Well, and this is, gosh, my poor husband, I'm calling him out. So when our first,
Easy E.
I know.
We love you, Uncle E.
We love him. And he would say, like, he would sit right here and tell you, like, worst decision he's ever made. But when our first company, decided to completely take away, like, basically our entire business, I was just like an emotional wreck. And so I was not necessarily in the frame of mind that I wanted to make a decision at that point. And he had kind of partnered up with some other leaders, male leaders, and they were convincing him that we should go another direction with a different company that in my heart of hearts, I knew. Like, I remember seeing like the packaging and I was like, absolutely not. But I let him make that decision, even though in my heart of hearts, like, I knew that was not the right decision. I knew I was supposed to go a different direction. And so it was about 3 months that we went that direction. I quote unquote that because I didn't really do much, but missed out on like probably a significant business that we left because we didn't go to where I knew we should have gone. And he would say that to this day, like, that was the worst decision. He's like, I should have never like been not manipulated, but kind of convinced by the wrong people to go somewhere because it was just for their benefit.
Right.
And so since that day, he's like, I will never make a decision for your business again. You know your business, that, like, you do that. So,
and all of those things kind of help you build up that wherewithal for the next situation that arises and makes you have more self-trust because of that.
Oh, well, and that's a great point. And on the other part of that, do I regret that happened? Absolutely not, because it taught me so much during that time. It taught me strength. It taught me like what do I really want to look for?
Not to listen to my husband.
And if you really every other decision he's been great with, but it helped him during that time also realize like, whoa, like I need to be the supporter that I've always been in this versus like trying to take the lead.
Yeah, regardless, his intentions were good, but he in the moment didn't realize it was a bad decision.
Yes, yeah, but again, would I still do that? Sure, because I feel like you don't ever want to live in regret. Everything's a lesson.
Right,
100%. Yeah, I know. Do you think that you have ever purposely gone against your intuition because you're so hopeful of like wanting this other outcome? You know what I mean?
I probably went against my intuition with my Mercedes Benz.
Tell that story. Okay.
You know,
I really wanted a Mercedes Benz. Found this beautiful car, sat down for the financing. They were like 8.99%. I had like a 790 credit score, and they were like, that's as low as we're going to go. And like deep down, I was like, that's insane that you're going to do that. But I was like, let's do it.
Let's do it.
So, little example. So
Just a small one.
Just a little.
Just a small.
But
And there's been.
But we got rid of
times.
that guy because it was in the shop for 125
Well,
days.
and that's the point that you need to make is that you ended up going against your intuition. It ended up screwing you because this car was an absolute train wreck. It was in the car for
But whoever purchases it, it's a beaut.
Over 125
days.
in a year.
In a year. And yeah, it just was bad juju from the get-go.
It was.
Yeah.
Her parents put a bunch of coins in my car because like a Greek
Wait.
tradition.
There's a Greek tradition that when you get a new car, I shouldn't say it's a Greek tradition. It's a tradition in our family, but I think some other Greek families do it, is when you get a new car, they throw some money at the end of the bottom of the car on the floor seats, and they say Maya, which is like, best of wishes to you and this, many happy memories with this new car.
We're not going to be throwing coins.
Well, it was like the opposite.
So we're gonna
No,
wait,
you're
the
not Greek, Adam. You're not Greek.
So the superstitions sometimes don't follow through.
It did not in this case.
It did not. But your new car is beautiful.
I love it.
It really
Yeah,
is.
big
It's
fan.
gorgeous.
Got rid of that.
It all worked out.
Yeah.
See?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say, many, many years ago, I was friends with a psychotic human. And in my heart,
We're going there today, huh?
we're not going there,
Okay,
but
cool.
in my heart of hearts, I knew that this person was psychotic. But I think I was attracted to the fact that like they were very wealthy. And I think at that time in my life, many, many years ago, that was something that we didn't have at that time. But yeah, I wanted that. So I was attracted to hanging out with her because of that lifestyle. And she turned out to be a complete psychopath. Understatement. And so that actually was, I think, the moment that I really got intuitive with people I surround myself with, that if they're not a good person, no matter what it looks like on the outside, run for the hills very fast.
Yep.
Yeah, you just got to trust your
Live and learn.
your intuition.
Exactly.
Well, I think that was good.
We
I
did
think we're
it.
done. Yeah,
We did good.
I think we've exhausted this topic.
Yes.
No, I think it was
No.
I hope
great.
you learned all about intuition. Don't be a quitter.
And here's the
Trust-
deal. Everybody
trust your
wants
gut.
to quit sometimes. Everybody
Yeah.
does.
That's it.
But don't be a
it's the
quitter.
people that don't that make it.
Trust your gut. And especially at this day and age, I think it's so important to really lean into your thought process and your gut and take the time to make decisions, because there's so much outside influence. You're constantly, whether you admit it or not, you are constantly comparing yourself to others online, and you're comparing yourselves to others, maybe in ways that you're like, you want to achieve, oh, this person I looked up to and they have this XYZ car and this, and this, so I should be doing that. That may not be in the cards for you, and trusting your gut on what pathway you need to take is more important now than ever before, I believe.
Well, and one last thing I'll say is, talking about like online and, there's noise everywhere. Looking at even people who are online coaches, for instance, that you see online, or business coaches in my industry that you see online. If you feel like you're connecting with that person, that is one thing. But if they're convincing you that if you go with them, it's going to be easy and simple, and that you're not going to have to really put in the work, but going to them is going to be the answer, like run far. That's intuition. Like run far, because at the end of the day, it does not matter who you hire. If you won't put in the work, if you won't eat correctly, if you won't work out, if you won't do if you won't get into action, nothing's going to work for you.
Mhm.
So like stop being like, I don't know, blindsided.
Stop looking for the easy button.
Stop looking for the easy button. If you do feel like you're connecting with a coach online, go with them, but do what they're telling you to do versus just wanting to go with the person that you think is going to get you success with the least amount of work.
Don't go for the shiny object.
Exactly.